Welcome to ASHB's quarterly CHC webinar meeting. My name is Marta Klopotowska, and I am the Program and Communications Manager here at ASHB. I'll be emceeing the slides today. Please note that today's webinar meeting is being recorded and will be circulated for those who registered and also for those who are attending today, along with the presentation slides. A quick look at today's agenda. I'll pass it off to Ken.
Marta, thank you very much. Welcome all to the Connected Home Council. I am Ken Wax, the chair. I'm doing this as a volunteer for ASHB, the Smarter Homes and Buildings Association. I run a management consultancy in home and building systems and energy management, and have been affiliated with ASHB and his predecessor, CABA, almost since the inception of more than 30 years ago. So welcome all to this quarterly meeting of the Connected Home Council. We will be dealing with some administrative matters in just a moment. You'll then hear a research update about the activities that ASHB is undertaking to benefit the members and the industry. We are very pleased to have a keynote presentation, which we'll hear right after the administrative and the information about ASHB projects. We'll devote quite a bit of this meeting to the featured presenter who will deliver the keynote. We'll then tell you about various services that ASHB offers to its members in terms of podcasts, white papers, a journal. We'll have an opportunity for you to offer new business on any relevant topic. We'll hear about industry activities in our announcements, and this should take us through the meeting. We're scheduled for 90 minutes. We'll continue maximum 90. It may be less depending upon the depth to which we pursue any of these agenda items. So let's go right into our administrative matters. So let's see here. We posted the minutes from the May 21st meeting. If anyone has had a chance to look at the minutes, would someone like to make a motion to approve them?
I read the minutes. David Katz moved to approve them.
Thank you very much, David. We need a second. Hopefully more than one person read the minutes.
Anyone can approve or second the motion.
Second, Holland.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much. So the minutes have been approved as the motion is passed. So on the research updates, Marta, did you want me to take this, or do you want to handle it, or someone else involved?
Yeah, I can take this one, Ken, for now. I know that there's quite a bit that you'll be going through on this meeting today. Our annual projects, we have 2 annual projects that take place every year, one for the residential side and one on the commercial side. Of course, today we'll be giving a quick intro on the residential side. This year's project is titled Smart Home Trends and Technology Adoption. Harbor Research is leading this project, and we have support from approximately 5 funders so far. We are always looking for more funders, so if you would like to participate, please let us know. We can certainly schedule a call to discuss a little bit more about this. The RFP went out earlier this year, and of course, as I mentioned, we've selected Harbor Research by the initial funders. The research utilizes surveys targeting 500 consumers in Canada and the US and covers the following 2 configured research project topics. We're looking at smart home hubs and interaction trends, and then our second is on privacy and data sharing. It's essential to note that collectively, these projects are valued at approximately 50,000 US, and we'll have an exclusive release to the project funders a little later this year once the projects have been completed. And there are two distinctive funding tiers, bronze at 5,000 and silver at 10,000. And of course, the bronze is still available for anyone who's interested in joining. And if you are interested in joining, please, you can schedule a call with anyone from ASHB or email us at admin@ashb.com. On to our keynote speaker for today. So the topic for today's keynote is enabling the home of tomorrow for aging in place. Today we have Nav Kannan from Vantiva speaking. The keynote will examine the role of technology in efficiently meeting the care needs of older adults. Nav will look at how homes could be equipped with solutions that enable care providers, family, and friends to connect, engage, and monitor these older adults, and that are secure and easy to use. Nav Kannan has more than 40 years of experience in product development and system engineering management within the electronics, communications, and software industries, and in the last 4 years has been passionately pursuing solutions to address the needs of the aging population to help them live independently. He leads the HomeSight business unit of Vantiva USA, which introduces the concept of hybrid care to the in-home care market. Nav, welcome.
Thank you very much, Marta, for those kind words. Certainly, I aspire to be that, actually. So, and I thank ASHB. Now I see that the way it's pronounced is ASHB, so I'll start using that. So it's thanks to ASHB for sponsoring this, webinar, and I'm really honored to have this opportunity to share our thoughts and such. So. If I may, I'm going to share my slide deck, if that's okay.
Yes, please go right ahead.
All right. Once again, I want to thank ASHB and the leaders there to allow me to speak. I want to definitely share. So I'll give a little bit of introduction. I think Marta already gave a flattering introduction to me. As I said, I aspire to be that. If we can go on to the next slide. I want to quickly talk about our company. Vantiva is a global company. This is a new name and probably not immediately, known to people, but two names would definitely gel with people. One is General Instrument, which was in the cable industry. That's along with Scientific Atlanta. That represents one lineage, if you will, where we were part of General Instrument, Motorola, and eventually part of this group. And then there is another branch that this originates from, and that's Technicolor. So Technicolor, as you are aware, has been involved in the entertainment and media business for a very long time. So this new entity, Vantiva, it's about 4 years, acquired part of the group that also does HomeSight. So that's how we became part of Vantiva. It's more than $2 billion in annual revenue. We are in 20 countries, and we are traditionally in the broadband and video CPE space, customer premise equipment. So if you have internet at home or if you have pay TV at home, there is a high probability, more than 90% with all the acquisitions that have happened, that you have equipment that comes from either Vantiva directly or one of its predecessors, if you will, in its lineage. One of the key things that Vantiva has done in the last several years is that we totally understand the need to diversify into newer areas to address new markets. And we are diversifying into smart spaces, which is an independent business unit, and home care solutions, which is what I represent, HomeSight. So that's kind of the background. I just wanted to give a quick overview of what this, which group I come from. Next slide. Thank you. So, at first I was a little bit apprehensive going in because after all, ASHB is more specific about smart homes and smart buildings. And I wanted to make sure that there is a connection. And I think at the end of the day, there is a connection. So I strongly feel that there is a narrative for the growing aging population for smart homes to be considered in the context of this important subset of the market. So when doing so, the second part of the thesis that I have is we have to look beyond gadgets and we have to look at the smart home somewhat holistically. And this is even more important from the perspective of older adults, and it's an increasing population of older adults. And what I mean by that is, I mean, we have heard for a long time now. So things like smart doors, smart locks, smart lights, smart plugs, smart this, smart that. So that in individual contexts have been there for a while now. And it has been plagued by a couple of different things. One is the lack of an open ecosystem in which there would be a lot more plug and play. So either you have a specific vendor's ecosystem, which is all closed, or you have to put things together by yourself, which is in general difficult for the average layperson unless the person is into do-it-yourself electronics. So that was one aspect of it. And the second aspect of it is, by definition, it did not cater to the broad spectrum of the population. It was aimed at people who are self-sufficient in doing things, etc. So from both these contexts, the need for things to work together, which is where the holistic solution comes in place, rather than looking at one gadget at a time. And the second thing is to focus on the increasing population of older adults. One has to slightly put a different lens and start looking at that. And even in that context, we strongly believe that smart homes is still relevant, very relevant when it comes to that. And so that's what this discussion is going to be. It's not going to be overly technology oriented, it's going to be solution oriented. On to the next slide. So this is something that probably everybody is aware. The data has been derived from the United States Census Bureau. And while this statistic that I have here is predominantly meant for United States, the story is very similar in most parts of the world. What you see here is the effect of demographics. And just in the United States alone, if you look at the number of people who are going to be 65 and older, and we can even slice this to 70 and older or 75 and older, it's still very, very significant. And, more than a quarter of the population by 2050, by all estimates, would be 65 or older. And that should give us pause for thought. And there is also, unfortunately, a large percentage of adults who are living alone. And the statistic that we have here is from the 2020 census, but that number is projected to increase with the baby boomer generation reaching the retirement age. And this is also a population which from a market perspective are the ones that spend, they are the ones that are vulnerable, and they are the ones who have the need, etc. So a very important clientele, even if we are crass to look only from a market perspective. Next slide, Marta. Coupled with that, there is an increasing desire amongst elderly to live independently. And this is something that's gathering momentum. We don't have a lot of research around this. It's mostly understood as common sense, or I mean, yes, by word of mouth, etc. The one key finding that I could reliably find was a survey. It's a survey, so it is not a census, but a survey that was conducted in 2021 about trends, and there are of course many other reports as well, where there is a strong desire for people to live independently. People want to remain in their homes, or even if they are in the context of a community, want to defer, going into some level of assisted care. And they would rather prefer a community setting or things along those lines rather than, otherwise. And many reasons cited for that include, autonomy and agency. By agency here, I mean the feeling that an independent feeling that they are in control of things. They are familiar with the surroundings, and to a great extent, cost is an important factor, as many assisted facilities definitely do cost more than potentially living on their own in their own homes for longer as they can. On to the next slide. So with that, I think it went back. Sorry. Thank you. So yes, there is an increasing population, and they have a strong desire. But can they? What are the challenges that they are going to face? So when we look at it, this is a little more complex, actually. So what I did was to split the types of challenges, depending on which report you read or what website you go and ask. Some would state loneliness as a challenge in and of itself. So what I've done is, when I did it a little bit deeper, we talked of core challenges that happen independent of whether or not someone is living alone or along with someone. So these start with physical limitations, reduced mobility, and other practical challenges of accomplishing various things in the home, something that has been identified as KADL, or key activities of daily living. Now, I pull out two additional challenges, and I call them as compounding effects. And this is loneliness and social isolation. Now, one of the things that I have not stated as a challenge in and of itself is the state of health, whether they have been healthy as they have been aging, or they've had for whatever circumstances, some ailments. I am 64, and one would say I have comorbidity because I have high cholesterol, I have I have blood pressure, so I am on statins and I'm on BP medication. So it's common, right? And so there are already, as one ages, there are physical challenges, there are health-related challenges. Now, the assumption is through systems, private or public, depending on the country, that there is hopefully a healthcare system that helps people take care of these things. But what all things set aside, one of the key things that has been studied over and over again by people is that loneliness, which is being alone, and social isolation, feeling cut out. So one can be lonely, but may not necessarily be socially isolated. One could be lonely and socially isolated, meaning they don't have people to talk to and so on. These things have compounding effects. They actually make limitations, the lack of mobility, or the practical challenges even worse. And this has been studied. There is actually a pretty more recent research report that I have cited that takes and has done some level of longitudinal study to kind of look at a cohort of people who have lived alone and have had limited social interactions with a control group, and looked at health outcomes and comparing that. So definitely independent living, more people want to live independently, but whether they are cognizant of the challenges or not, that's hard to say, but those challenges do exist. And that is important. So what I have done is, stated the problem, right? This is the problem statement. So now I want to draw the relevance to where people live, the place that people call home, and how can we help? Is there relevance to what ASHB and what we do in particular? Will that help in this particular cause? That's the connection I want to draw. Next slide, Marta. So the key is, can we do something about it? In the context of smart homes, can we factor this population in, their needs, and for a solution? And our belief is there is a host of devices that already exist. But even if you take something as simple as a mobile phone, and yes, many people are now comfortable with the mobile phone. Just yesterday, I was trying to call my dad because they had internet down, and so I had to resort to using phone, and halfway through their internet came back, and it was difficult for them to use the mobile phone because my parents are past 85, and it's very hard. And because they have difficulty in hearing, if they want to see me, they put the phone near their ear and they can't see me. They struggle a lot. Now you think about finances, you think about transportation, you think about all those other things. It is a challenge for people who are alone. And the question is, to the extent that we can, from the context of the smart home ecosystem, it's a collection of various companies, can we help? And our belief is, yes, we can. Yes, we must. But we have to go beyond just one device at a time and start looking at a solution. And that brings us to the next slide, Marta. So before we jump and talk about one device or a specific device or things like that, we want to start from the perspective of, what do we want to achieve? If someone is independently aging and is an older adult, what are the various things that we want to cover? And then once we have that, then we can figure out what type of solutions that we need to put in place. Certainly, we want to start from the problem statement and the needs of these people, rather than here is a device or here is something and then do something with it. With that, our perspective has been that there is a need for connectivity. It's absolutely important. I know that earlier, just prior to the start of this conversation or this meeting, we talked about artificial intelligence. Our belief is, yes, artificial intelligence and stuff like that have some role to play in even a meaningful manner. But we, at least our position has been that that it has to be in the aid, but not a substitute for connection. The real connection is when there is a human being on the other side that is part of the caregiving process. And that is extraordinarily important. We can never take the person out of personal caregiving. And and we can never take the loved one away from the connection and substitute, a talking robot in the place of a loved one. And a call from a son or a grandson is always going to be far more motivating for the older adult. And I can speak, I have 2 grandchildren already, as opposed to my interaction with some AI robot of some sort. So while I still think that the power of computing and analytics have a role to play, connection is one of the key elements, and that will serve to create or reduce the social isolation that people feel. But a connection on its own is not sufficient. There needs to be ongoing engagement. People buy some gadgets, it looks very interesting, and then they drop it on the floor after 2 months of use. Came as a Christmas present, they used it for a couple of months, and then the phone and whatever nice applications it has is really of no use if there is no one on the other end calling and engaging them on a periodic basis. So there has to be a way for keeping the older adults engaged, so that they have a sense of purpose, that this day that I'm going to have certain things to do, and so on and so forth. The third part is also important, which is the ability to monitor. And I want to use the word monitor very carefully here. This is not some abstruse element. It's not about something that is abusive. It's not something that invades privacy. This is more to keep track so that there is peace of mind for the loved ones, and that the caregivers can be comforted saying that, okay, the person that they are giving care for, that they can reach them as needed, and so on and so forth. So all these 3 elements, especially being able to understand the activities of daily living and how people are doing, is extremely important, because otherwise they are living alone. And we don't have any visibility into how things are going on. I want to know that my father, whenever he walks, is using the stick and not feeling, otherwise, courageous and not use some of the regimen that we have set for him. Next slide, Marta.
Can I ask a question on the last slide? I just want to make sure I understand. It's not only monitoring in person, but monitoring remotely.
Yeah, indeed, David.
Some of those require technology.
Absolutely, that's exactly where I'm. That is the intersection, and you are absolutely correct. We try to characterize how it can be remote, but at the same time not invasive of privacy. So again, rather than a solution, I'm trying to make sure that, okay, what the characteristics of each of these should be. You hit the nail on the head, David. That's absolutely correct. So we need to do all of this. So how do we engage that, do all that in the context of a smart home? To us, the most important piece is it has to be a safe home in the first place. The solutions should set aside, if somebody is starting something because, oh, I can sell advertisements, or I can sell the human as a product, because more and more selling advertisements is not the only thing. Targeted advertisements has become somewhat, less of a problem compared to even bigger problems, where you are the product, literally. Like people, the big companies literally know what your next thought is, because they have modeled each of your behavior. So one of the key things in my perspective, at least, and a lot of us share that, which is the the older adult, the person who's the most vulnerable actually, needs to have an important say in that. They should not have to give their own data in order to get some of the, any of the technology or any of the features and things of that nature. So, for example, yes, its connectivity is great and mobile phones are great to be able to call anytime, anywhere. But last year alone, United States reports more than $2 billion worth of scams that have specifically targeted older adults, and they come in the form of phone calls where the caller ID cannot even be trusted. So there are things we need to be able to make sure. David, you mentioned remote monitoring. So cameras are an extremely important part because they can provide a lot of insight, but they can also potentially be abused, misused, hacked, and therefore be a total invasion of privacy. So there has to be solutions that are cognizant of that fact. Security of data is extremely important. Security of the devices individually and the solution in total has to be extremely important. So it is important that in the name of smart home, we don't sacrifice security, we don't sacrifice privacy. So those are key requirements. And in our opinion, yes, we have to be able to connect, we have to be able to remotely monitor, we have to be able to engage and keep them engaged. But these are non-negotiables. We need to be able to do all this in a safe manner without the older adult having to lose any privacy of any sort. Next slide, please. So with that, we are trying to introduce a concept that is not necessarily a specific device, but is an abstraction, right? We call that the health hub. We have heard smart hub all day, in terms of, in the IoT space, Internet of Things space, in the smart home space, we have heard concepts called smart hub and all that. We want to introduce a concept called the health hub or a wellness hub, not branded, or I'm using generic terms here. We can unlock senior independence with a health hub. And this is how we believe that we have relevance from a smart perspective. So it's a take on the smart hub with two differences. It's not boxing the hub to a single device. That's step one. And step two, which meaning it keeps it abstract. And the second thing is that it is indeed done with a purpose behind it, which is senior independence and senior well-being, etc. Which means to at least the following, inclusive, not necessarily limited, a design approach or the overall thing, which is user-centric, a holistic approach, meaning it's not solving one problem. Because today you can go and get a panic button, you can get a fault detection engine, you can get a breathing monitor, you can get these things independently. There's nothing, but it has to be coordinated and work together as a solution, even if it is in one or more devices, that's fine. The whole home, when I say home, even if it is within the context of a community, within the context of like a multi-dwelling unit or whatever, there are subspaces, like a place where someone lives during the day and a place where they go to sleep, and there is a place where they eat, and a place for hygiene, etc. So that's what we mean. It's not necessarily a mech mansion of 3,000 square feet. It could be just a studio apartment in a residential care facility or an independent living community. That has to be baked into this hub solution. Data security and privacy, we already talked about, and remote care. So 4 years ago, when I started on this endeavor, I talked to a person, Ed Cantel. He was the CEO of C4MI, Center for Medical Interoperability. And he asked me, hey, Nav, what is your perspective on technology? And I said, Ed, my view is that technology should be seamless and easy to use. I was just making, I realized that I was barely making noises. I didn't have that conviction. I was using what people would call a marketing term. And then he corrected me and he said, technology must disappear. And I said, Ed, can you explain what you mean by that? And he said that if the person is aware that he is using something specifically as if it is a concept called technology, then that's not good enough for this population. You should make the technology disappear. You should blend it into their day-to-day lives. Now, technology is still going to be part of it, but they don't feel that they are doing something to do with technology. It's an experience. I'm sure when telephones first started more than 100 years ago or whatever, when Bell introduced the first phones, telephone in and of itself must have been an experience of sort, right? In the sense that, oh, this is newfangled technology. How am I going to use it? And very soon, people were just using it as a tool, as a call. So the concept of calling became more to the surface. It came bubbled more to the surface, and the technology virtually disappeared. It's so here when I say disappear, it's disappearing from the consciousness of the person who is engaging with it. When we go to internet and do any search, we almost expect, it's as our experience, at least the new in the last 20 years has been different, where 25 years or 30 years ago, that would have been not that. It would have been full in your face technology. So to the extent that whatever we do is something that can be blended as easily into normal user experience, that would be preferable. And that is important, not just because in the current demographic, there are old people who may not have used all the technologies. I can tell you that even as people age, even those who have been exposed to, who have been users of digital technology, as one grows older, from their individual mobility and dexterity perspective, it's hard to use certain of the devices that are tailored to be used by young people. So definitely, technology must factor in all of that and should play a background role and let people focus more on the experience and what they normally do. And definitely not clutter them with, hey, oh, you want to join this yoga session? Oh, you should download this app. You should register. You should get an email. You should use multi-factor authentication. Those are the kind of things that can easily put off somebody. And, at the end of the day, they are going to pick a solution where they bypass some of the stringent stuff that we put in place. So it has to be easy, and technology must not be the one that hits people in their face, which is important. So that's what should be the characteristic of a good, health hub. And we want to kind of, moving on to the next slide, we want to examine what some of the characteristics of this health hub should be. So, I've taken the liberty of using a couple of pictures from one of our partners. This is something that we want to do, connect with family and friends. We should be able to do not just family and friends, but professional caregivers. We should make sure that we are able to use big displays that are at home. Use familiar technologies. For those people who can handle it, a tablet would be okay. And we have seen in this industry, people use big tablets or audio-only assistants. And there are solutions which include using a television as a solution for that. And when we do the connection, one of the key things is restrict it to a circle of trust. Do not let this particular health hub be like a general purpose telephone or a general purpose machine that anybody can jump in and make calls and you'll get unwanted calls, etc. The solution automatically or should be preventing spam calls as well, because it's a closed circle of trust. So connectivity is extremely important, and one has to take these things into picture, notwithstanding what specific technology they use. This morning, I was also talking to somebody who was saying that, hey, slowly, people may want to use a projector in their home. Sure, why not? If that's bigger and easier, use it. The display technology could keep on changing. So tablet gives you mobility, TV gives you size. So using such technologies will be helpful. Certainly, I can say that a small mobile phone is very, unwieldy for elderly people. Let's see what we do to, and I think there is a chat comment that the audio quality would be important, and I absolutely agree. That's excellent point, actually. I just saw the chat pop up. It is extremely important because with age, the ability to hear also diminishes typically, and we don't want to have people start yelling. And thirdly, we don't need, if there is a call, supposing the phone has been left at a particular place where it is charging, etc. Once I've noted my dad long time ago, thankfully, because now he uses one of the newer solutions. But because he got a call from me, he rushed and he almost fell because the phone was not near him. And so that is another thing, don't disturb the people. And which means that will they be able to speak from where they are? Audio, quality, the crispness, and the ability to hear from a distance, all of these become important as well. So connectivity goes beyond. And we need to be able to do with multiple people, like calling with a group, be able to participate in webinars such as this. Imagine being able to join a session like this. Supposing you were able to invite, supposing this was a webinar on, let us say, how to manage diabetes for elders or whatever, and you want to share, you feel like your mom would definitely benefit by this if she was able to at least listen in on this webinar, preferably on her TV or something like that. Shouldn't it be easy enough to just send her a reminder or something with a simple button says, just join? She doesn't even have to know that it is a Zoom application that needs to get downloaded. I had to go through some gyrations because we normally don't use Zoom in our company. So in order to enable sharing and all that stuff, imagine that for an 85-year-old person. So being able to do all that is extended forms of connectivity. Now, we can push that burden of flexibility to those, like, for example, it is the elderly in the home that needs to have simplicity. On the other hand, we can provide the flexibility. We can provide a mobile application to the family member who may want to call while they are on the road, hopefully not driving at that time, but while they are away, not necessarily in their home, be able to call, pushing that complexity to others who can handle it is totally okay. Whereas, it should be easy for the elderly. On to the next slide. And keep them engaged, right? Engaging is not saying, hey, here is a YouTube application, go search. That is not necessarily our perspective on what engaging is. To be engaged, meaning in the sense that it should be personalized, the content should be personalized, preferably curated, should not open up a plethora of choices and making the problem worse. And it's stress to be able to choose from a variety. It should be interactive. It should engage. And that's when people have a better feeling of not being isolated, when there is an interaction and a response. And honestly, in our opinion, it should be advertisement free. There is no reason in the name of flexibility or features to be slammed with ads and then on with all these cookies and stuff like that collect all kinds of information about you and then really sell you to whoever is the highest bidder. So engaging with all these things should be part of what the hub, and when I say the hub, it doesn't have to be a single device. It can be a collection of devices, should be capable of doing. Next. And last, of course, is the concept of monitoring. And David, thanks for pointing out, we are talking remote. And what are we looking for? We are looking for key activities of daily life. We want to get insights on changes, whether initially manually or over time through analytics. And that's a very good place where artificial intelligence techniques can come into play, because they can start looking for patterns rather than pushing that burden onto the individual. And even if they are not 100% accurate, if they can signal changes in trends, that would be good. And of course, environment. US, less of a problem, but in United Kingdom, as an example, when keeping the air conditioner on or the heating on, the HVAC system on, is it's not as ubiquitous as in United States. People don't necessarily keep the AC on all the time in summer. To have that simple insight looking at what is the inside temperature in the room where my dad is, while, take for example, my dad and mom in India, they don't have an AC whole home air conditioner. At least when they go back and retire to their bedroom, we have installed an AC unit in there that they use. But when they are in the living room during the daytime, usually it is not air conditioned. The question is, if the outside temperature is 110 or something like that, they are in a tropical place. What does the inside temperature look like? Is it reasonable? This is an insight that a caregiver or a family member can detect, and it's important. Understanding their living space is important. These are important things to understand, and that's what I mean by holistic. Not just a pinpoint of, we detect fall or we detect this. That's good, but let's understand the overall context. And it has to be, the monitoring, remote as it is, should be passive, unobtrusive, meaning it should not interfere in the day-to-day activity of the elderly, and it should not give them a feeling that somebody is watching them all the time. It should be holistic in the sense that it should, you could litter the home with a litany of devices that each monitor one specific aspect of it, that could also get overwhelming. And so coming up with holistic solutions is important there. And then a whole home, again, whole home here in the context of different living spaces within a unit, basically. And for us, every time, privacy is extraordinarily important, transparency is extraordinarily important, and I think that should be something that the industry must respect. And there should be informed consent. People should clearly be told what is being done. In simple terms, we should not be throwing them a 25-page legal document. We should be able to simply answer the question, what kind of data we collect? Why do we collect it? Do we pass it on to anybody else? And is it who else is going to see it and for what purpose? And what we do with it and how we dispose it. Simple, common English or whatever the native language is, we need to be
It's
explained.
simple, but I would point out that there are many websites that say we collect everything, we give it to anyone we want, and if you don't like it, don't do business with us.
Indeed, you hit the nail on the head. This is honestly my position, and I am very pleased that my company has allowed me to keep this position, right? As an individual, I would never want to sacrifice that. And I need to know what is happening. And in the case of elderly, it's even more important because people do not necessarily know what they are signing up for. And I don't know that it's just elderly. Let's say a good section of the people do not know what they are giving up. And I think it is extraordinarily important to make sure that the industry does that. And I strongly believe that it is a sad state that in the name of flexibility, in the name of convenience, a lot of things are taken for granted. So that's my a basic thing on connecting, engaging, and monitoring. Onto a couple of slides. I think I'm almost done. So the one thing that I do want to mention is that once we have the health hub, it can be a gateway to telehealth as well. In other words, the same health hub, which could be a wellness hub in the context of non-healthcare, meaning just professional caregivers who do personal care, and then family and friends, but it can also be a gateway for telehealth, in which case there are even more constraints, which means the architecture of the hub needs to take into account from a security and other perspectives that it has to be absolutely rock solid security, and it should allow, in HIPAA terms, what we would call a covered entity, to make sure that they can execute their jobs without having to worry about technology being in their way, not just contractually, but by actual practice. Next slide. And the last thing is it can still work in the context of other devices and sensors in the home. That smart home, I'm sure, in the context of ASHB, probably many webinars have already been conducted on IoT and such, smart devices, etc. This is not in contradiction to those things. The Health Hub solution with one or more devices can work in conjunction with the rest of the devices. For example, kitchen sensors can help monitor eating habits. And so the Health Hub can tap into insights that come from the kitchen to kind of get a better understanding of the key activities of daily life. Smart locks and door cameras can work in conjunction with the Health Hub solution to make sure that a person who is not able to go out and open the door when a personal caregiver is coming in, to be able to securely provide caregiver access so that they can come in to the home. and and so on. So the point here really is the health hub system is a collection of technology, if you will, in however the industry wants to articulate in terms of number of devices and focus and so on and so forth. And there are many. We still can work in the context of smart homes. That, I think, brings us to virtually the end of the thing. Well, a couple of slides. One is basically, in order to be able to power the smart living, I am sure this would have been addressed in earlier webinars, etc. Obviously, there is a lot of assumption on what health hubs need to already be present. Would be some level of broadband connection, some level of compatibility with existing infrastructure and power and electrical systems, some kind of wide area coverage, whether it is through Wi-Fi or some other system. Those are the ecosystem needs, but I'm sure the nature of which would have been examined by ASHB and the industry already. And I know that smart spaces, for example, covers all of these aspects already. So my call to that in the next slide is really to the industry as a whole, is that we do agree the reason for ASHB's relevance and importance is that the home is getting smarter every day. We have also seen that aging in place is the norm. We do believe that Health Hub can bridge the gap that exists, and we can make a smart home a safe and healthy space for living. And I think addressing the needs of the aging population is in fact important for the smart home industry. It is a niche population today. It's not small, and it is continuing to increase. So it is a growing market space for the industry. So from purely a money perspective, it's still the right thing to do. And we believe that this will usher this concept through for better independent living and quality of life for residents. And of course, peace of mind for those who are not able to live right next to their loved ones. And I really want to thank the whole team. I apologize if I had taken a little more than that was accorded to me. And hopefully this was helpful. Your feedback and critical comments are obviously welcome.
Thank you kindly, Nav. And I think we have a little bit of time just for a few questions. I know that there's a couple in the chat here or in the question box. One of the questions here is, what is a gait analysis and how does this monitoring do that?
Yeah, gait analysis is, David, still in its early stages. And it is, it's basically, think of it as a predecessor to fall detection. Fall detection, honestly, as it is becoming better, that's all good. The trouble with fall detection is it's a post-event. It's unfortunately a much lagging indicator, right? If you have detected a fall, the only thing that caregivers, loved ones can do is to react, meaning they can have a personal emergency response system or some kind of a monitoring solution be tied to it. Detection alone is irrelevant if someone is not able to act on that notification and be able to do something. And just doing something remotely is just very hard. So someone has to rush, take the person to the hospital or find out what's going on. So it is important. I don't want to downplay the need for fault detection, but one of the things that we are trying to understand is another concept called gait analysis. And sorry for the delay in the direct response. Gait analysis starts looking at how the person walks, right? And now this requires some more intrusive monitoring, in the sense that having the camera on, but looking for patterns in walking or how fast somebody gets up, and baselining while somebody is normal, and signaling that the gait has changed over time, that they are walking differently, they are getting up differently, their movements are different enough that they may be a suspect for fall. And I think that becomes important, because then we can address solutions that that can help in preventing falls in the first place. So that's what Gates' estimation is. But I would love to also caveat that it is still very early. It's all AI modeling, requires a lot of training data, and could be geography or culture or whatever dependent, actually, and home dependent. So in order for it to become a proper solution, may potentially be years away.
And Nav, we have quite a few questions in the question box and the chat box that we might not be able to get through. Do you have some time to maybe type these answers out for the group? And then this way we can get those answered while we move on. But I think if we could just maybe have David Katz, I know you have a question. If we could just do.
I'm in the Q&A and I don't see it. So let me just add, it's a great presentation. A number of our members, including some in my association, are dealing with the technologies like sensors to know if they fell out of bed, the ability to pull the blinds instead of getting up and going over. Indoor air quality, which is nanotechnology that is used in Europe. So I just want to know, Nav, where we can find out, how do we get these included into your holistic approach?
Oh, absolutely. And that is extraordinarily important, actually. So they would, in my opinion, fall under the monitor category, right? So, again, this is not about our product, right? So this is really about, we alluded to it, but really, I have to speak in terms of any solution, right? Part of the monitoring should be that the monitoring aspect of the hub solution should be able to interoperate, meaning it should be able to interface with existing devices, because not one company, not one solution provider can be expected to do everything, and nor should they. It should be an open system so that the best air quality sensor can be used. The best TV may be used, the best a sensor, fault detection. So certainly I am a believer of that kind of an approach. So to your point, we would integrate, going back to the HomeSight product, we would integrate third-party solutions for such devices, which we already have a roadmap for, but those are the kinds of, so for example, we have our own multi-sensor, right? But that solves certain problems. We are happy with it, but we are constantly in the lookout for, hey, is there some other solution that may exist that we can interoperate with, that we can use? So we are not necessarily imposing, and that should be the attitude, to me, for anybody in this industry.
Thank you. I have your email. I'll reach out. Thanks so much.
Thanks, David. Thanks for your question. And Marta, yes, if I can get the email addresses, if it's acceptable, we will deal it with the priority and the privacy.
Now this is Ken. Marta should be able to collect all the comments and forward them to you. Marta,
okay, perfect.
You've been able to capture them?
Absolutely. Good. We do have a couple in the question box there. Now, I'm not sure if you're able to type some of the answers while.
Yeah, I can try and do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
whatever we don't get to, we could certainly,
Yeah.
have everyone connect with you directly. But I think for now, Nav, thank you so much. That was very informative, and no need to worry about the length. I think the content was great. So having it go a little bit longer than what we normally do is perfectly good here. Before we move on, Ken, do you have any comments, or is it okay if we move on to some of the ASHB
Well, yes, I
content
have
here?
lots of comments, but I could give another hour's worth of presentations. But so I think we should move on to the various ASHB related issues.
Excellent.
Nav opened a whole fascinating subject that I've been involved in because I chair the world standards bodies, writing standards for interoperability and privacy and cybersecurity. So there's a lot to discuss here, but it's well beyond the 90 minutes we have. So why don't we turn to the topic of ASHB services? And do you want to
Absolutely.
start with podcasts?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ken. So for most of the individuals on the call here today, I think you're all fairly familiar with our podcast. For those that are not, I would say about 2 years ago, ASHB started the Smarter Home and Buildings podcast, and anyone can participate in these. We're always looking for guests and hosts. You can participate as a guest, you can participate as a host. We can look for someone to participate on the recording with you, and topics can range from anything from, anything to do with residential spaces, smart spaces, connected spaces, to smart, intelligent buildings as well, automation and whatnot. So our more recent recordings on transitioning energy management, bridging policy and innovation. That was a podcast with AERC, exploring the evolution of and future of fire alarm systems in homes and buildings, solar energy as a team sport when installers and OEMs collaborate for quality. So if you are interested in listening to any of these, you can go onto our website, ashby.com //podcast. And again, if you would like to participate, please feel free to reach out to us. We would be happy to schedule a quick call to do a quick rundown of what's involved, how to go about doing these. These are great for the industry at large, all these informational sessions, and also an opportunity for you to promote your organization. There's a bit of marketing promotion involved in every single episode, so you can reach out and spread the word about what it is that you do or what your organization does. And with that, I will pass it on to Ken.
CABA has a number of methods for disseminating information, and one of them is the Connected Home Council develops custom white papers as proposed by our members. We currently have a white paper under development on AI-powered smart homes. It's in the early stages, so we don't have any report yet on that. But we give you the opportunity to propose a paper of length about 5 to 10 pages that is introducing a topic that would be relevant to Connected Home Council members. If your proposal is more extensive than would fit in 5 to 10 pages, we usually produce a series of papers. So the first one might be an introduction, and the following papers might discuss market structures, it might discuss technologies. So I encourage any of you who would like to take the leadership role in writing a white paper. We will help you by putting together a committee of experts to critique your writing, and maybe you could persuade them to contribute to your writings. We also gather information from papers produced outside of ASHB. We have a publications review committee that's reviews papers that the ASHB administration has found, typically published in a trade journal, as long as it's relevant for connected homes and connected buildings. We then subject it to a rigorous review. We have a formal submission process where a volunteer reviewer from among the ASHB members will read the paper, produce about 100-word summary, and develop a series of keywords so you can search our library of thousands of papers and find papers that are relevant to you. Our papers are limited for access by members for a few years, and then they become publicly available. So you, the ASHB members, have access to some of the latest papers. In fact, Marta just posted another tranche of papers for the CABA members to voluntarily review. And by the way, if you do choose to review a paper, you will be compensated with a nominal payment of $25 US, or in addition to $25, you will get a $25 credit to ASHB Publications and Services. Another way that you can help educate ASHB members is through a formal paper submission to the ASHB Journal. The ASHB Journal is now publishes approximately monthly. It's available on the ashb.com website. Under news, you'll find journal. And I think this is a valuable method for reaching the ASHB membership. And I speak from experience because I've been submitting papers to the ASHB Journal and its predecessor publications for almost 30 years. Actually, since 1992, so it's more than 30 years now. So I encourage you to consider all these options: the white papers, the Publications Review Committee, and the journal for contributing to ASHB. And so we form an organization that mutually supports one another. So Marta, do you want to turn to new business now? We have an opportunity now to open the floor to anyone who'd like to offer us new topics for us to discuss. Any new business? It could be a keynote idea, it could be white paper, it could be a project, could be another agenda item.
Well, this is David Katz, and I'm just representing a new company from Czechoslovakia that has a nanotechnology that
what's the company name again, David?
FN Nano. I met them at the Czech Republic in Toronto because they're bringing their technology to North America. It's been successful in Europe. It literally cleans the air passively, whether it's interior or exterior to the building. And I've downloaded many technical papers supporting this titanium oxide approach. And so I'd like to have them speak to CHC or IBC as a topic, and even maybe write a paper on it with them, because they've shared with me a number of information. And I've just been to an eye clinic where it's been installed for over 4 years.
Well, as you know, we are looking to learn about new technologies all the time, David. As long as they teach us something and don't just pitch a product, that's
100%.
Totally acceptable.
Well, this is why I had to discover it myself before I would even represent it. It's also included in the, it has a cooling roof certification from the Environmental Protection Association. And that is critical as we talk about demand response as a stress grid. And I'm trying to get it approved by the Ontario Save on Energy, because there is a $1,200 kilowatt for lowering summer peak. Thanks. I'll write it up and speak to you and Martha about it.
Okay, thanks, David. Any other new business? Well, Marta, I think we've covered the agenda now. We have, well, let's see, we have the activities. Did you want to cover that?
Yeah, just a quick note on some upcoming events taking place in the industry. As everyone is familiar with CDIA Expo coming up September 5th and from the 5th to the 7th, we will be attending. We also have a booth there, so if you are interested, please feel free to pass
Marta,
by.
I will be there. Who's representing ASHB there?
Kelly and Jasmine will be there.
Okay,
Yeah, please stop by. Say hi to the team.
will do.
And we have our Shanghai Smart Home Technology Show taking place in Shanghai, China. That's September as well, from the 3rd to the 5th. And we have a couple of virtual sessions, of course, from Parks Associates, our Smart Spaces on September 24th to 25th. That is, yes, actually that's in person, and then also virtual, December 12th. And then lastly, the Last Connections virtual session is taking place on December 12th. And that is all.
You do see.
What was the last date?
Yeah, for Connections, the virtual session, December 12th.
Connections. Okay.
Marta, can I just ask? I didn't see
Yeah.
the smart space that was announced on Tuesday. That is a smart home, smart living that Greg mentioned. I just want to repeat it because actually it's in November in the International Center in Toronto. It's smart living, smart.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you. Thanks for.
And the reason I said that is I contacted them right after that because I'm in Toronto and they want me to speak there and present on that.
That's right. Yes, yes. Okay. Yes. No. Absolutely. We'll add that to the agenda or to the minutes as well.
Well, with that, we've reached the end of our meeting. This is one last opportunity if anyone has something urgent to tell us. Otherwise, our next meeting will be scheduled for November. And we thank you all for attending. And thanks to Nav for an outstanding presentation.